What we have to understand now is, how do we read a label? How do we understand what we're getting in a supplement and then teach that to our client? They have to understand the difference in quality is part of what we're recommending when they come to us for a wellness visit. The sources of vitamins and minerals can vary widely, and that substituting products based on price alone is misguided. It is about ingredient source, not the cheapest product out there, but the one that has the best ingredients. Clients should also notice that a high percentage daily value will usually give them insight into which ingredients are isolated vitamins and are highly chemically processed. The trick is, the higher that percentage daily value, things that are 1,000% of the RDA, every single time you're looking at an isolate or a synthetic. And high amounts doesn't necessarily mean high quality. Our first label here is an example of a whole food supplement called Catalin. When we look on the label, let's look at the daily value percentage of each of the vitamins listed. For instance, if you look at thiamine, it's 0.2 milligrams, which is 15% of the daily value. When you see that, you're pretty much assured that it is going to be in a whole food source. Even with the vitamin A. Remember the vitamin A slide we had a few slides back, said 333,000 IUs. And this particular vitamin, the vitamin A, is 1,200 IUs, or 25% of the daily value. Now here's what sets it apart from anything else. When you look and you see that there is a proprietary blend, now you can see where the food source is. We have defatted wheat germ, we have carrot root, calcium lactate, nutritional yeast. This is where a lot of the B vitamins will come into play. We have adrenal support, liver support. All of these different factors, mushroom, dried pea vine juice, dried alfalfa plant, all of that combined together is going to give the whole food support in a multivitamin that we see right here. Something else you'll notice in a more whole food based product, when you're dealing with the concentrated foods, as we talk about right here, the serving sizes may be higher. In fact, most times they usually are. This is very different from that typical 1 a day supplement that is high dose synthetic isolates, super high percentage of daily value, and it'll say only 1 tablet. The percentage of daily values are based on chemical isolates, not vitamin complexes from foods. It's part of the labeling process to meet FDA requirements where we have to have the daily value, but again, then you look at the proprietary blend. Glandular material has the highest source of vitamins, minerals, and protein found in nature. When you see a good glandular support, it really will set your daily multivitamin apart from any others on the market. Rice bran and wheat germ are good natural sources of vitamins B and E. Our next label is an example of an herbal product. In this particular example, we're using Mediair, which has both Australian standards of good laboratory practice and good manufacturing licenses. It's used by the pharmaceutical industry. These licenses adhere to strict label claims. And when you're dealing with concentrated herbs, serving sizes may be lower than comparable herbal products because it's all about getting the potency that you want into this particular supplement or herbal product. So oftentimes you'll see 1 tablet versus 3 to 4 tablets to get the same potency. The ratios here show the dried herb equivalent in potency. A 4-to-1 ratio means the starting material has been concentrated 4 times. I am just giving you the highlights of what you'd want to look at on an herbal label. Now also notice this label gives the species and part of the plant that is used. This is tremendously important because you can just put an herb on a label and maybe where the potency comes from the root, but they could be using the flower or the leaf and still call it echinacea, but it won't have what we're looking for. For instance, the alkylamines that we see on this label has little to no alkylamines because they use the wrong part of the plant, but they're still able to call it echinacea. And on this particular label, it tells us what part of the plant that they used and the phytotherapy or the chemistry that makes it effective that we want, that is part of the immune support that echinacea is known for, is the alkylamides. It gives us what's called the active compounds. What is the amount of the active compounds per serving size? When you are able to understand how to read the label, then you understand also what sets apart one herbal company or herbal support product from another. This slide is actually an example of what you don't want. This slide is showing you very clearly what synthetic or isolated vitamins would look like on a label, and then we're also going to show you the herbal aspect of it. When you see the label, there's a couple things you want to notice. First off, if we look at the vitamins and minerals, we're going to look at the source. Is it a food source? And what is the daily value? That will tell us a lot about if it's natural or not, whole food or not. For instance, if you look at vitamin C, the first listing of where it comes from is ascorbic acid. Now, think about ascorbic acid. That's just one small part of a vitamin C molecule. It's not vitamin C per se, but they're allowed to call it vitamin C just by FDA guidelines. And if you look over to the daily value, what do you see there? 200% of the daily value. Now go down just a little bit. Look at vitamin E as D-alpha tocopherol succinate, 333%. That's not vitamin E. In fact, that's just a fraction of it. And we can just keep on going down further and see that, the quality, looking at minerals, what are the quality of the minerals that are coming in? Because this is how the body recognizes it as food or not. Can it utilize it or not? Or is it going to act as a stimulant, as a spike, and like we said earlier, over time, deplete the system? And I think what's interesting, oftentimes you'll see this, they'll have all this high-dose synthetic that you see at the top of the label, and then it's like, well, let's just try to make it a little bit better by throwing in a proprietary blend of some fun things in here. But what you really have to pay attention to is the synthetic value. And I even look at the other ingredients. What are the other ingredients that they're using to hold this together? And do you recognize what they've put down in the other ingredient label? Now, if you look to the side, we're showing you an example of an herbal label that really doesn't tell us much at all. It doesn't tell us the species of the plant, which is incredibly important, and it doesn't tell us how much of the active constituents are involved in this particular herb that they've used. And another thing that we need to be aware of is they're using a dried extract. This is far less potent than an alcohol prepared extract such as MediHerb uses.